What's up, guys? It's Bolt, and I'm back with another Remnant 2 build guide. In this video, we're going to go over my Cowboy Ninja build, and man, am I excited to bring you guys this build because the new DLC has brought us some banger trinkets, and in this case, maybe, quite possibly, arguably, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best, necklace in the game in the Chef's Metal. I will get into that in a second, but first let's do the archetype breakdown. We have the Gunslinger slotted in first, and that is because we want the loaded prime perk. We want the Bullet Storm when we activate it to reload our weapon. That'll keep our DPS going. That's exactly what this build is, a straight up DPS build. We have the Invader slotted in second, and let me tell you something about these two archetypes, and I've been saying this since the beginning of the game, since Remnant 2 launched. These two archetypes have the strongest relic perks in the game. Let's go over their respective relic perks. Gunslinger sleight of hand. Using a relic reloads the equipped firearm and increases range damage by 15% for 10 seconds. Juicy, man. You love to see that. And in the Invader, using a relic reduces the threat generation by 25% for 10 seconds. While Override is active, the next evade leaves an empowered decoy which lasts 5.5 seconds. Now, if you guys don't know about the Invader decoys, they are insanely strong. They actually are probably the only thing, yeah, actually they are the only thing that can draw aggro from all enemies in the game, even bosses. So the dog from Handler cannot draw boss aggro, and summons cannot draw boss aggro, but the Override, holograms, decoys, whatever you want to call them, they do draw boss aggro, and that is huge. And leaving decoys all over the place makes Invader untouchable, and that's exactly what we are going for with this build. We want to be untouchable while dishing out massive damage. So this is a high damage, high survivability build, and we're going to get into how we're exactly going to be doing that. Now, back to the Chef Metal. Let's go over that. On perfect dodge, you're automatically going to trigger the effects that require relic use to activate. Now, on paper, you're like, oh, that seems pretty interesting, right? But the amount of items in this game, and obviously every single archetype, has an on-relic use skill or power, so to speak. And every time you perfect dodge, it's going to activate that. So going back to the Gunslinger, we're going to have the sleight of hand relic perk activated on every perfect dodge. That means every time we perfect dodge, it will reload our firearm and it will increase our damage. Every time we perfect dodge, we will get the reduced threat detection and we will leave behind that decoy. So we will never be targeted. It's crazy how strong this is. Insane. But not only that, we have so many strong rings in this game that are tied to perfect dodges. Let's go over them right now. You already know one of them, Akari Warband. Increases our crit chance and crit damage. Fan favorite, one of the best rings in the game for damage. It's on here every time we perfect dodge. We're good to go. Got that. Devoured Loop. This is going to allow our skills to be up at all times. We have such a high crit chance on this build. We will be proccing this pretty much indefinitely, so we will have our Bullet Storm active and we will have our Void Cloak. So that comes that's very, very important because of the Void Cloak being active at all times. That's going to make us invincible, number one. And number two, if we do get hit by something, it's automatically going to count as a perfect dodge with Void Cloak. It's going to leave a decoy, and it's going to proc all of our stuff here. It's going to proc our two relic perks, our Akari Warband, and then the newcomer, the Transient Cord. On relic use, it increases our critical chance and critical damage by 10% for 15 seconds, and it reduces by 1% for every 1.5 seconds. Since we're going to be perfect dodging so often, it's pretty much not even going to be reducing. So it's going to be, oh man, you see how powerful these things are? We got the relic perks, we got the crit rings here, and then we're going to pair that with the leaking gemstone. This is going to help us keep the heat sinking mod on the plasma cutter up indefinitely. This is very handy with these new bosses now because the new bosses have a lot of HP and the fights are a lot longer. You can't get away with, for the most of the time, you can't get away with one heat sink deleting the boss. Now you need a little bit more. You need about 2 heat sinks now to kill a boss, and this is going to help us. Right after our heat sink is done, it'll be about 75% filled. A couple of more shots from the plasma cutter, you have it back up. Boom, it's reloaded, ready to rock and roll. You don't even have to worry about the heat generation on that because of the heatsink mod. So that's why we don't have any heat generation trinkets at all. And this not a problem, not needed. The mod is going to be up, taking care of that at all times. Onto our secondary weapon, Nebula. Boring, yes, I know, but it's great for utility. We're going to cast it. We're going to get the corroded effect. That's what we want. We want nanoswarms just to do corroded, give us that 10% damage. Good for mobbing as well. It takes care of trash pretty reliably. We have the feedback mutator on there, although passive mod gen is not working currently. It's a bug. So anything that slowly generates mod power over time is not going to work. Leaking Gemstone is working right now, but stuff like feedback, Archons, passive, the passive regen from Archon, stuff like that is not working. Fairy Needles. So hopefully Gunfire Games fixes that very shortly. And but until then, just keep in mind, just know that feedback is not working. It will work eventually, and that is the mutator we will be using on Nebula. The melee is up to you. This is just cosmetic. I don't melee on this build, so if you want to put something for utility, by all means do so. You want something like Krellax, Hero Sword, or Crystal Staff, be my guest. This is I like the Harvester scythe. I like the way it looks. It looks cool with my build setup. So yeah. And then the star of the show for the weapons, we have the Plasma Cutter, the highest DPS weapon in the game. It's an absolute monster for bosses. Yeah, I think you guys know about this already. We have 1,000 cuts on there for that crit chance, damage, and the reload speed. And I don't really even got to talk about this. This thing is an absolute beast. You see it in the video right here, and you've seen all the crazy kills that people do with Plasma Cutter. It is the highest DPS weapon for single targets in the game. For mobbing, I would use something else. I will go into that in a second, but let's go over my armor. This is, you guys know I like looking cool, so it's usually just fashion, but a little bit here for utility because we are using the Devour Loop, which does reduce our damage reduction a little bit, so I want to compensate for that. So I do have some heavy armor here equipped, and again, up to you guys for your armor choices. If you want to even wear something heavier than this or whatever, you want to go full Leto, by all means, you can do so. I like the way this looks, and I needed a little bit of extra damage reduction to kind of mitigate a little bit of the Devour Loop. Onto the traits. Ammo Reserves and Untouchable are the respective archetype traits. Swiftness for that movement speed. This is not mandatory. This is just something I like because I do like using consumables. I have Potency, and I do use Confidence Boosters, and I do use the new consumable. I forgot the name of it, but it does give haste, and haste is one of the strongest buffs that you could get in the game. So I want it lasting longer. Those two consumables are a nice increase to your DPS. I know a lot of players do not like using consumables for whatever reason. So if you don't want potency, you can feel free to be more tanky. You can max out your fortify and then put the rest in bark skin or whatever the case is for your play style. This is just how I like to play. I like damage, so potency will allow me to keep those consumables up for a longer period of time. Flashcaster, just to get those heat sinks out quicker and my bullet storms and stuff like that out quicker. Gifted, you want to keep our skills active as long as possible. Fortify, we got a couple points in there just for the damage reduction figure. Come on, don't need to talk about that. Spirit, for the mod generation, we want the heatsink to generate mod power quicker. Chakra, to have our mods out longer. And here's the one that is also not mandatory if you're not going to use potency or the consumables. Perception is for the increased haste and slow by increased haste by 3% and slow by 10%. So when we use our consumable for the haste, it'll be up to 10%, which is a 10% to firing rate, reload speed, consumable use speed, evade speed, movement speed. It's just such a good buff that now we can get it for free with a consumable. It's just silly not to use it. But again, I know a lot of players do not like using consumables, so feel free to swap that out for something of your choosing as well. But that's it. That's the build. I love the fact that Invader is now good again. Or good at this point. He was really never good, but with these trinkets, really allows Invader to shine. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comment section below. What do you guys think of this build? What do you guys think of the DLC? What do you guys think of all these new trinkets? And here's the one I really want to know. What do you guys think of Chef Metal? Am I crazy? I think this is absolute S tier, and I really think it's absolutely one of the best, if not the best, necklace in the entire game. I still need to test it more, and I still need to test all the other stuff, but it's just so much utility and different things you can do with this. It can fit on every build, and I can't believe how strong it is. This should have been like a legendary or something like that. I don't know. It's just really good. So drop your comment. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. Please consider sharing it. Please consider subscribing if you have not done so already. Drop a comment. Love hearing from you guys. I appreciate every one of you guys. You guys know that. Catch everyone on the next one.